Hello and welcome back to Copic in the Craft Room on YouTube. Michelle Houghton here. A while back, and this is probably a couple months back at least, someone asked about shading white and black. Now I know in the past we have done a couple videos on this, but we haven't in a while. In fact, I haven't done that. I know Colleen had done a couple, so it'd be at least a couple years ago. But I thought just to keep it super simple and straightforward, because I know recently we've had a couple really long coloring videos, I'm literally just going to do this on two spheres. So I've drawn two circles with my multi-liner, and I pulled out a series of neutral grays. So those grays that start with the letter N. And I have every other. I don't have every one. I never intend to, but I go from N0, then I go N1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And that's what I'm going to be using. It should be pretty straightforward. The things to remember when you're doing something that is white or black is that we're not seeing complete white. If this was my white ball, and I really just left it as a white ball, all it looks like is a circle on the paper. I have to see dimension, and in order to see dimension, I have to have shading. So it's not just pure white. I'm gonna use grays today to do that. I could use a whole sundry of other things, and there's a whole reason behind why you would. And we'll talk through that a little bit as we're doing the white one, because it's pretty fast and easy. Black, on the other hand, is similar in that if I colored this solid black, if I literally pulled out that 100 or 110 marker and colored it in, it's going to look like a black circle sitting on the page. It's not going to look like a ball or a sphere. So I have to shade it in shades of gray in order to get it to look black, to show that dimension. And so I'm going to use a range of colors. And depending on if the object is shiny or dull, if it's got texture, all of that's going to make that look different. So hopefully I'll have a chance to talk through a little bit of that, but it'll at least give you a chance to see those black and white pieces shaded. I'm not going to speed this up a whole lot, but I am probably going to speed it up a little just because I've got two larger spheres to fill in. So I will zoom in and speed up just a hair, and of course I'm going to talk you through this whole thing. But again, I'm only using this set of grays to show you this today. You could do this with any monochromatic series. So off we go to do some coloring. So I'm actually starting with a colorless blender because on this white sphere, the one to the left, I do want to fade to white. So the highlight area is going to stay white in this case. And I've added that area of colorless blender, and you can see it because it's wet. And then I'm coming in with the N0. So that's my neutral gray, and I'm flicking from the edge of the ball inward. Now I want this to look like a three-dimensional ball, so that shading actually comes all the way around. So I have to keep turning my page. The flicks get shorter on the highlight side so that it doesn't, obviously that highlight, I want it up in that corner of the ball. What I didn't realize is I haven't used these end markers in a long time, so they are crazy juicy. So I'm going to have a little bit of issue with some feathering or bleeding out that back side of the ball. It's okay, you're still going to get an idea of what I'm doing. That N1 is next, smaller amounts. This one still works all the way around the edge in little tiny amounts. And then an N3 comes in on that darkest side and is shading that bottom edge. Now, there's a ton of issues with reflection, with cast shadow. We aren't dealing with a lot of that today. I really just want to show you how I would shade a white object in a very basic way. So now I'm going back and smoothing those out. N1 to smooth that area between the N3 and N1. Then the N0 to smooth into that 0 or lighter gray. And last but not least, you come back in with the colorless blender and fade that right out to white. Now with the colorless blender, I am going to push a little bit at that feathering or bleeding that I had happen on the edge. I would need to do this multiple times in order to truly correct it. So I'd have to let it sit and dry and come back 4 or 5 times, but it would correct up really, really nice. Now the black one, I'm going to do a big range of colors. I'm going to start with an N1, and that's what I'm going to put on the highlight. But because I know I'm doing this whole string that I just showed you all the way up to N9, I am not going to fill the whole area in with N1. And then N3 is next. I am coming in and flicking in onto that N1. But look, I'm not going to even hit the edge yet of that sphere. I'm still keeping it off that edge. N5 is next. still leaving it off that edge. It's getting wet. You can see that with my marker strokes this time. That N5 is going to come all the way around because I really want this to look black. So I have to be real cautious. I'm adding it in small amounts first. I can still see the 1, the 3, the 5. N7 is next, and it's going to work its way all the way around as well. It even comes in that thin sliver up on that highlighted side. I do come in with an N9, and this isn't necessarily an added step that you would have to do, but I just think it punches it home. So now I'm carefully working up to my black line, and then I will flick in just a little bit, but I'm going to work that N9 all the way around. It is super, super thin on that upper left-hand side. Hard to see at this point. The N7 and N9 are already blending together. And so I actually skip down to my N5 and pull that N7 a little bit into that N5 area. So I'm flicking from the N7 onto the N5 area, doing the same with my N3, starting on the N5, flicking onto the N3. So I'm pulling that color, softening that edge, and notice the highlight is getting smaller. I can always add more as I come back in, and that's my kind of pattern. N1 is next, and it's going to soften up those edges. N3, because I feel like I didn't quite get that edge the way I wanted to. This is the beauty of Copic, so I can go back and forth now and smooth these areas out. N5 again, getting that edge just right where I want it. So I've got my white and black sphere. I'm thrilled with how the black one turned out. And I've really just shaded the spheres. I haven't set them into space. I haven't grounded them. So the things I could do to ground them is I would actually create a cast shadow. I could create a horizon line, and you have the ground and the sky, or even just a background, but you would definitely want to have a cast shadow because of where my light source is coming from. You can read exactly where it's coming from. So it's out towards where I'm sitting off to the left. So it's out in front of the object over to that left kind of upper corner coming in and hitting. It's hopefully about the same on this white one. So a couple things I could do also to add some real detail is, depending on the color of the ground, because that is a white ball, it's going to actually pick up that reflective color. So if it was sitting on, say, a blue tabletop or blue tablecloth or something that was blue, you would have some blue in this shading, in that darkest shadow of that object, because light is reflected. And so when it hits the object and the table around it, it's actually going to bounce some of that light. And because this is a white sphere, it's going to pick up the color around it. The other thing I can play with, these are really sitting side by side, but if I'd drawn one in front of the other or one in back of the other, you could throw a cast shadow onto the other ball. But really my focus today was looking at specifically shading a white or black object. What's distracting to me right now is I can still see that black outline of this white ball. And so to me, I can't really see that white ball as clearly as I can absolutely see this black ball becoming a sphere in a three-dimensional object. But hopefully this helps. We're fading to white over here, or the shade of the paper. We've got that real deep. I go all the way to that N9 out in the shadow over here. If it was a reflective surface, like a shiny bowling ball or something like that, I would actually have a bright white highlight. And it'd be crisp. It wouldn't be soft. I wouldn't fade into white like this is fading into those lighter grays. It would actually be a crisp, sharp highlight, depending on the light source. So it would actually reflect what the light source was. So if it was a window, you'd actually see the panes of the window in little squares across that shape. Try looking at someone's eyes sometimes. You can see what the light source is against them. You can see the actual shape of that light source. It's kind of cool. Anyway, thank you for joining me this week. If you have not had a chance, make sure to like our channel here at Copic in the Craft Room on YouTube. Also like this video, and then when you have time, go ahead and check us out over on Facebook. Again, Copic in the Craft Room. We have lots of Copic inspiration going on over there. Thank you for joining me this week. I really do appreciate it. Check in next week to see our latest upcoming videos. Have a happy, colorful week.